Hello, everyone, and welcome to Golden Goals Match Week 12 preview. Once again, we are doing our videos this week, so we will see you shortly, just after this.
Fitting way to do so. It's him. Back to Balotelli. It runs for Aguero. They've done it!
Hazard still on the ground as Charlie Adam goes for goal here. Oh, and he scored!
And was by Stones. Andrew Townsend! A field of minutes. And Aaron Ramsey starts and ends an immaculate. Trying to find a way through.
So, everyone, welcome, and we will start with everyone's favourite Chelsea fan, Hubert.
Well, let's talk Brighton Chelsea, shall we? And as I said in my review of Chelsea's game against Manchester United, it's going to be an interesting game, and I think it's one of these fixtures that kind of when Graham Potter was rumoured to be and then announced to be the next Chelsea manager, I think every Chelsea and, well, Brighton and any football fan really was looking at the fixtures, kind of looking at when these two clubs will meet, because that will be a more high-profile game than people think, mainly because obviously with Graham Potter being at Brighton at the beginning of the season and then subsequently leaving the club to join Chelsea, you do wonder what's going to happen in that game. And it's definitely not going to be straightforward, I don't think. I mean, looking at this fixture, you've got Brighton on one hand, who, okay, most recent few games, you know, they've not done brilliantly against Nottingham, against Forest last week. And then over the weekend, you know, it was a tricky game for them as well. They lost to Man City, but again, people expected that probably. But this time they're facing Chelsea, who are on a very good run of form. But Chelsea have to go to the Amex, and most importantly, they are playing Graham Potter's former team. So I think who wins in that game will be quite interesting, and it'll be a lot. There'll be a lot more focus on it, because it'll be interesting to see the Brighton players who know Graham Potter's tactics, who know how he might play if he plays similar tactics to the ones he used at Brighton. On the other hand, depending on how much different tactics Brighton now have under the new manager, you're going to have to consider that, you know, Graham Potter knows Brighton players very well, so then knows what to look out for. So therefore, you can say that would be a great advantage to Chelsea, really, going to the Amex. What do I think will happen in this game? I think it's not going to be straightforward at all for either team. I personally fancy a draw on that one. I know it sounds a bit boring and not very creative, but I just think it will be one of these games where both sides will have a lot more information from a very different point of view on how the other plays. So really, I think it would be hard to call. And yes, I said 2-2 as a draw for the Chelsea-Man United game. I'm also going to go for a draw in this one. Sadly, a bit less of an eventful prediction. I don't know when was the last time we had two results in a row that were the same for both games, but I will go for a 1-1 draw between Brighton and Chelsea, because I just think it's tough to call because of so many different factors. I just don't know what to pick for this one. I'm being indecisive, but I think I'm going to go basically straight down the middle. 1-1 draw. Ideally, I'd hope for a Chelsea win, but I think a 1-1 draw in this particular case could be quite a fair result.
Okay, so that was Hubert with his Brighton versus Chelsea preview. What does he think is going to happen? Let us know in the comments as well as down below. Just let us know what your thoughts are. It'll be quite interesting to know what you think is going to happen. Are Chelsea going to get over the line? Or will Brighton snatch a point? Or maybe 3 points? It's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure. Next up, we have Luke for the Man United versus West Ham game.
West Ham at home. This is going to be an interesting game. As of late, last couple of seasons, West Ham have been a bit of a bogey team for us. They're stringing a couple of results against us. But this season, West Ham have been a bit up and down. I think our confidence is riding high at the minute. I think we will have too much for them going forward. It depends really what West Ham turn up, because they're a bit like I said, they've been a bit snake and ladderish, up and down. So and obviously we're at home to them, so I think we'll be comfortable and should get the win. We've got Ronaldo back in the squad. Hopefully he can learn from his suspension. He's back amongst the goals. Obviously he's going to be a bit different at the back because we've got Rafael Varane out until after the World Cup, unfortunately. So we're probably going to see the partnership of Martinez and Lindelof, Maguire if he's back. But I'm hoping Lindelof. I'd rather Lindelof over Maguire. So our defence is going to be a bit more tested by Antonio or Scamacca, whoever they decide to play up front on that day. Probably Scamacca. Scamacca seems to be favoured over Antonio lately. But we know Antonio can cause problems too if he isn't starting lineup. And if Bowen starts coming into form, then that's another issue. But I think we will have enough to get the 3 points. Yeah, I just think we're winning comfortably, and there should be a good game. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so that was Luke with West Ham versus Manchester United. So what do you think? Are Manchester United going to be winning that game? Or are we going to see Manchester United feel more confident than West Ham? Or are West Ham going to go back and bite them? Be interested to know your thoughts. Let us know. As always, in the comments. I was given the task of doing the Crystal Palace versus Southampton. So Palace are at home in their last couple of games at home. They lost to Chelsea 2-1. They beat Leeds 2-1, and then they beat Wolves 2-1. Whereas Southampton on the road, they beat Bournemouth 1-0. They lost to Southampton 4-0, and that was the only of their last 3 games. So that one's a hard one to call at the moment because you never know what you're getting with both of them. Just from a Palace point of view, you would want them to go into this game and get the 3 points so that you feel a little bit more safer. It's the same with Southampton. I could imagine this is going to be huge for both teams. It's really odd. I don't really predict draws that often. If I'm just thinking about it, I think this has got a draw written all over it. That being said, though, the fact that Palace have won these games like 2-1 might put it in their favour, the game being at Selhurst Park. So I'll go with a draw. I'll go with a 1-1 draw, but I would not be surprised if Palace do go on and win this game. We are next going to see Hubert with his next preview.
Let's now talk Leicester versus Manchester City. Now, what can you say about this fixture, really? Leicester had a good win against Wolves, thrashing win against Wolves. It wasn't exactly a formidable opponent, was it, really? But still, Leicester at the moment, their form is a bit, interesting from week after week. You just don't know what to expect from Leicester. In this game, I think the expectation is fairly easy. They're playing Manchester City, team second in the Premier League, team that's been blowing most teams away, team that might be missing Haaland for this weekend at least, which, considering how much he's been doing, it will be very interesting to see how it affects Man City. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting Leicester to destroy Man City just because one Erling Haaland isn't playing. That's something I'm not expecting. But mind you, the point I have seen mentioned already by Sky Sports and people on there going, have Man City been too reliant on Erling Haaland? And, well, looking at the game against Dortmund, I mean, they didn't need to win in the Champions League, but they still could have easily lost that. So, if we look at that, are they relying too much on Haaland? Now, again, it's tricky to say, and I don't think Haaland being missing, if he is missing from that game, will make much of a difference, because apart from Haaland, Man City aren't exactly short of attacking players from their 5,000 teams that they can field. So, do I think much is going to happen in a case of Leicester winning? No, I don't. Do I think Man City will still win? Yes, probably they will. I'd be very surprised if Leicester get something out of that game. And as I said, Man City have a lot of attacking players. Looking at the game against Southampton, Haaland scored 1 goal. The other 3 were scored by other players. So I don't think Man City are short of attacking options when it comes to Leicester. So I will probably go for a 4-1 win to Man City. And I don't really see Leicester getting much out of this one.
Okay, so thank you, Hubert. So that was Leicester City versus Man City. Will be interesting. Can Leicester get something out of that point, out of that game, and provide a little bit more of a cushion for Brendan Rodgers? So we will next go on to our next ones, which is Sam and Nick. A little bit longer for you.
Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. I'm tasked with a couple of games this week. First one being Brentford Wolves. Wolves are in a bad place. So this one is fairly easy for me. I see Brentford winning quite comfortably if Leicester can win 4. I'm not saying it's going to be 4-0, but I think it'd be around that. Don't give Wolves any chance of anything at all, basically.
So, Newcastle United, Aston Villa at 3 p.m. on Saturday at St James's Park. Newcastle are hoping to carry on their excellent season form, having against Aston Villa. Coming off the back of the Tottenham win. So Newcastle will have mostly. Newcastle have close to a full fit squad apart from Alexander Isak. It should be. I think it'll be roughly the same team as against Tottenham. But Aston Villa will not be easy after they bounce back after sacking Steven Gerrard and the 4-0 win over Brentford and then appointing you Emery. It will not be an easy game. I think if Newcastle if they start on the front foot, play really well and get score first, I think they'll probably go and win. Of course, I fancy Bruno to play with Joe Willock and Joe Linton in the middle, and then have Fraser, Almiron Murphy, and Wilson in as attacking 3. Defence, I think, is going to be Byrne, Botman, Trippier, and Nick Pope. That's the team. And I've strongly fancied Newcastle to win this game, as we have not lost this season at home. It's going to be and the fact we're going to have 52,000, it'll be sold 50,000 in the ground, and the home support will drive us on, and I carry on because Newcastle have done really well this season. I was expecting us to be challenging for either Conference League or Europa, but not Champions League. But it's an extra bonus, and I am fully expecting Newcastle to get a goal from a set piece because due to Kieran Trippier's delivery, for definite. He has delivered. I scored and created quite a few goals this season. So we'll win. So it'll be quite interesting. What better do? But I am extremely confident. So I am going to go for a 2-0 victory for Newcastle.
Next up, Liverpool Leeds. Leeds are going to be up for this one. Going to be really up for this one. One are going to do one over on Liverpool. Liverpool are hit and miss. They're 1 week they're good, the next they're not so good. But I also think they're going to want to bounce back from the shock of losing to Nottingham Forest. So I could see this one going either way. My guess is it really could be a draw because I can see Leeds being up for this. And Liverpool have got so many injuries at the moment. So I would probably say, yeah, a draw. Not many in it, but a draw. And then I have the Forest Arsenal game. Arsenal need to bounce back. We need to forget about what happened and go for it, basically. Forest are going to be on a bit of a high after beating Liverpool last week, so could leave it a bit tricky. But I also think Arsenal have got more than enough to beat them. We need to kind of stand up and show people that even though we did drop points, that we're still up for it. So, yeah, they're the games that I reviewed. Hope you all enjoy the games. See you on a show soon.
Okay, so that was Sam and Nick. So with some interesting predictions. My last game was Fulham versus Everton. This is going to be an interesting game. The game will be at Craven Cottage, so it will be an interesting one because Fulham have a very mixed record. In their last home games, they lost 4-1 to Newcastle, they drew 2-2 to Fulham, and then they won 3-0 to Aston Villa. So some mixed results, some mixed games in there as well. They played West Ham and lost away from home. They also played Leeds and won 3-2. So a bit different when you've got someone like Everton who went to Newcastle, lost 1-0. They went to Tottenham, lost 2-0. Went to Southampton and won 2-1. It's going to be a tough one, if I'm honest, but I have a feeling that the Palace result will help Everton thrive a little bit more. They went and got a very clinical couple of goals. Calvert-Lewin's back. That's going to make it even more helpful. Anthony Gordon's doing so well as well. He's not just a one-season wonder that he's just come out from the academy. So I'm predicting Everton to win, and I'm going to say it's going to be 2-1 because I have a feeling it's going to be very open. And our last prediction comes from Hubert. Take it away.
Well, Bournemouth, Tottenham next, and it's. I mean, when Bournemouth were in the Premier League before, you could say this fixture is quite tricky. I mean, at certain points, Bournemouth were Tottenham's bogey team. There were certain few results where Tottenham dropped points against Bournemouth won when they really needed points, and another time where you just thought they really shouldn't have. And I mean, Tottenham very up and down at the moment. I mean, they've lost to Newcastle, which, considering Tottenham's ambitions and Tottenham being a Champions League club, you could say that result was a big blow to them, and that result really wasn't great for them, and it shouldn't have happened. And then obviously they had that controversial draw against Sporting, which, in some people's eyes, that Tottenham goal shouldn't have been disallowed. So it'll be interesting what form Tottenham will be in when they come to the Vitality. Saying that, Bournemouth have been doing well under O'Neill, but they have lost their last two games against Southampton and against West Ham. Another controversial one, that one. Do I think Bournemouth can get something against Spurs? Stranger things have happened, but no. I think it won't be a massive win for Tottenham, I imagine, but I do expect Tottenham to probably win about 3-1 against Bournemouth. I mean, they've been better than they were under Scott Parker. Tottenham are a bit on a tricky patch recently, but I don't think much can be given Bournemouth's way in this fixture. Yeah, I'm quite happy to be proven wrong though. But for this one, I will go for Bournemouth 1, Tottenham 3.
Okay, thank you, Hubert. So, will it be fun to be beside the seaside for Tottenham away to Bournemouth this weekend? That is everything from us at Golden Goal TV. You can follow us on social media through Twitter at Golden Goal TV. We've also got our Facebook group and page, also Golden Goal TV. We have our WhatsApp, we have a Discord, we've got everything that you could possibly want. So please reach out to us, and if you ask, you will get pushed in the right direction. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we are back on Monday at 8 o'clock to do the review show of these games, and who never knows, we might have some interesting games going on. So until next time, goodbye.